favorite things and one of their favorite things. So we start the morning and we open up books and we end the day in bed, reading stories and telling stories. And so the idea that some kids didn't have books to read, and some moms didn't have books to read to their kids, something that I can't imagine as a mom, knowing how much that means to me and to my kids. And the same thing with just clothes and strollers. I know how important books and toys and clothes and really basic things are to raising a child and having a child really feel good and thrive. So that's what I wanted to focus on.
Okay. The third question is, how many years have you worked for Cradles or Crayons?
I started Cradles to Crayons 11 years ago, and I was doing it part-time for the first several years. I started in 2002, and until 2006, I was doing. I was doing it part of my time, and part of my time I was doing some international work, and it got to be too big to do just part-time, so I decided in 2006 that I was going to dedicate full-time to Cradles to Crayons, and we now have 2 sites, one here serving kids across the Commonwealth, and a second in Philadelphia, serving children in the greater Philadelphia region.
Our next question was, do you travel doing these type of work?
Do I
Do you travel?
I travel locally, but and then I also travel to our Philadelphia location, and now I'm starting to travel a little bit more because we are looking at other cities where we might bring Cradles to Crayons. So I look forward to exploring what other communities would be interested. I have someone who runs Philadelphia, an executive director in Philadelphia, and that's really important to have someone there full time, and just because there's so many things that come up on a day-to-day basis and so many partnerships to build that it's hard to do that remotely. So I will go back and I'm in regular touch with our team in Philadelphia, which is important to keep that communication going and to ensure that both sites are operating according to the same principles and quality guidelines and the same model. And that's similar to Facing History ourselves, right? It's all over the country. And is it international also? It's amazing. I think it's an amazing organization.
Did you have to do any training before you started working with the homeless kids?
So, Cradles to Crayons is mostly working. We have a warehouse in Brighton, and so how we work is everything is in partnership, as you know, with Children's Services of Roxbury. So we will have community health centers or shelters or early intervention programs, school-based partners, and these are nurses and teachers and therapists and social workers who are working directly with children and families, and they are noticing when a child doesn't have a backpack or when a child doesn't have toys or books or other kinds of supplies. And so that's how we get information about the children and the families. And so they'll place the orders on behalf of the families and come get them and pick them up. They'll pick them up from our warehouse and deliver them back to the family's home or back to the program so that the next time it comes in, there's a package. so the training that I have is really more in business, because that's where I started my career, and I was a business strategy consultant. And so my training, Algebra 2 you mentioned, is certainly, math was pretty important, and analytical skills, organizational skills, and thinking about, well, history is another important subject that, because you want to look for, what is it you're trying to provide, whether it's a product or a service. How are you going to do it with consistency? How are you going to pay for it? How can you grow your business? How do you set things up so that you can take an idea, you test it, and then you grow that idea? So my training is more in business than it is in nonprofits, and then I also worked in the government. So I worked for the Clinton administration. I worked in the White House and had policy training and policy experience as well. So people can come into can go into a number of different sectors, which is the interesting thing. When you're going through high school, and if you're going through college, if you're going, if you start out in going down a business track, or you go down a nonprofit track, or you go down a government track, it doesn't mean you have to stay in that lane. But you can look at things that interest you and make connections in these different sectors. And I find more and more that people are looking at, how do I take what I know how to do over here based on my training and apply it over here? There might be someone who has a business background like me, and who wants to be involved in more in the community. And so I think it's exciting, especially now that we're seeing more of that crossing over. And then I continue my training. I was just at a program at Harvard Business School, looking at how to be a better leader in nonprofit management. So training is what you know, what your skills are, what your experiences are, and how to think about applying them into a new situation. It's on-the-job training. I'm not even sure I would have known what kind of classes or training to take when I started out Cradles to Crayons. But then as I've gotten into wanting to be better in certain areas, I look for ways to keep that training and education going. So whether it's bringing people in, like you're doing, and learning about someone else's experience, or going to a class, it's something that I think goes on through your whole life, and that's what makes it fun, because you can keep learning no matter how old you get.
What is your definition of being an upstander?
I think it's recognizing either a problem that you see and taking action to solve that problem, or recognizing an opportunity, a way to bring something new, or bring a new idea that can hopefully make the community a better place. And there are lots of ways to do that, whether it's creating dialogue within a community so that people understand each other in new ways. Or if you see that someone's not getting, a group or someone, an individual isn't getting access to something they need, it's figuring out how do you step in and provide that access. It might be finding that there's not a park in your neighborhood or community needs to be cleaned meet up and you take action and you pull together other people to, be responsible for keeping that park clean. I think it can be something really big, and I think it can be something really small, but it's someone who wants to make a difference and is not just wanting to do it, but is taking action and keeping it going by personal commitment and by involving others.
Would you feel like you're an upstander?
It's always hard to take a compliment or to to think of oneself in that role when there are people who are doing. I think what I do it's fun. I really enjoy it, and there are a lot of people who get involved in our mission. And I know that without so many people, we'll have 30,000 volunteers in Boston alone who are coming to, and they're kids. We just had, we had some families in yesterday, and there were kids not much older than my little ones who were in there volunteering. And so I think I can't do, or Cradles to Crayons wouldn't exist without all these other people who have embraced the mission, and whether it's people who are helping by sharing the resources that they have, and sharing clothes and books and toys, or coming in to volunteer, or the people who are connecting with families directly. It's all, we're all under one umbrella. So I guess I would say that it would be a huge, it's a huge compliment to be considered, to be an upstander, and there are so many other people out there who are doing, really important things in their community. That I think the good news is that a lot of people who in my mind, qualify for that.
And what do you enjoy most about Cradles to Crayons?
What I love is, going into our warehouse. We call it the Giving Factory. Any day, and meeting people I've never met who have decided that they're going to come and they're going to roll up their sleeves and spend time to help a neighbor. I think that's really cool, and I think it really gives hope that we can build a better future. So that's what I enjoy most about about Cradles to Crayons, is that it's really a community center where people can give back, and knowing that everybody has something to share and everybody is sharing. I think that gives me energy, and it allows us to reach more kids. So that, and I'm going to modify it a little bit by saying that I love to see. And then what makes my day is when a child who has perhaps received something from Cradles to Crayons sends a note and talks about why it was important, or just draws a picture, and so seeing that.